So if you do want to do that, why give me a call. I'll work with Ruth Metzler, the principal up there, and get something set up for you.
Hello, you're from the Herald, are you?
From the Historical Society.
These murals are exceptionally unusual to find in a high school.
That's what I heard, and they were covered up for a long time.
They were, and fortunately we could use some of the restoration money for the remodel in the complete reworking of all of those murals. They were, the cloth was damaged.
Did you go there to West Seattle?
No, I was...
They would have been lost if we had not remodeled the high school. And it just worked out wonderfully well.
Yeah.
And they were, you know, talk about government programs and waste of money. They were all a product of the WPA.
I saw that, but I was talking
You don't
about
even know what the WPA was.
Well, I do remember the WPA, Progress, or was it Works Progress Administration?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, so Works Progress, and there
Very
are beautiful things
Big
around
joke
Seattle.
because people would see WPA people and there wasn't any progress. That guy, he was a Russian immigrant. And they just looked so Russian.
Where in England were you?
And they commemorate the landing of the Outback Party.
Yes.
This was...
But they moved to the artist license there.
Oh, okay.
And she also...
Native Americans are indigenous personnel. More like
all the teachers in the school.
East Coast.
Please leave
Our West,
for the group of England is gone.
1936.
Very nice. In the original handwriting.
Yeah, no, that was mine.
Your handwriting.
But this is the welcome I got from the American
Saw those,
consulate.
yes. And this,
This one. And this happened to be, I was on my trip back to England in 1956. I took a five-week trip on the bus and stopped at Antoine's, and they told me that I must go to this restaurant. But I learned only just the other night on television, they wrote about it in my journal, that this is the oldest restaurant in the USA.
Oh my.
I just learned that a matter of weeks ago. It was on Channel 9.
In New Orleans?
Yes.
Oh nice.
This is my husband at the time we were not married. And this is me leaving. So it's a big story. And those were all the teachers that came. There's only three of us from the Northwest. And all of the others scattered across the country.
They came for
They all
just
came
the
on that
year?
ship.
It would be nice if we still had that program to introduce you to someone. Was she your She was Stadium High School.
Norway.
In Trondheim.
Right.
That's why I thought if she was here, we'd been there.
But
They
she's
said
Stadium
Robin
High
was in.
School. Or maybe she taught, maybe she taught it.
This very attractive young woman is me. I can't hardly believe it, but there I am in 1955. I graduated from Dawson High School in western Minnesota. Class of 64 students. 1955, a long time ago.
Jersey is that? Is there a history or historian? Oh my gosh. Oh, and Ellen.
I know.
One lady that stopped by briefly.
I saw that.
I just wanted to know where she was.
There's three of us on there that came to the Northwest. The others dispersed to different parts of the country.
Yes.
And this is the welcoming letter that came from the State Department, welcoming us here and making a nice program in New York and Washington. So I kept those things. These are the goodbye things from England.
What ship was it?
It was the one I came on the first time was the Queen Elizabeth.
Queen Elizabeth.
Queen Elizabeth. I went back on the Britannic a year later, and then I came out and was married, and at that time it was the Parthia. So I had 3 different ships. But this is rather interesting. Antoine's in New Orleans. I went there in 1956 because people told me, oh, you visit Antoine's. And I learned just the other day on television that this was the oldest restaurant in the country. And I just learned that on television in a program. So I thought, well, that was worth bringing today. And this is just little examples of this children's work. Very interesting, and everybody has a story to tell, don't they?
I guess so. Looking at my story the other day, what should I do about it?
Well, you know, I've written my story too, John, and it's wonderful for us. When we're not here, then it's for the... It's for, well, yes, unless somebody wants it for something.
Bill.
Preparation about my grandmother.
Yeah. Well, you know, this is wonderful. I think there's a sonnet by Shakespeare. I don't know what number it is, but it starts "To my love," and a 14 lines poem. You would think it was somebody, but it isn't. It says, "Shall I compare thee to a summer day? No. Sometimes too hot the eye of heaven shines. Sometimes his gold complexion is dimmed," and so on. But it says, so long as eyes can see or men are here or something, so long lives this. And this gives life to thee. It's the writing that you've done from your heart in a book or in a pen, whatever. It's your writing, and you're gone, but so lives this, and this gives life to thee. So think about that when you're finishing your book. Okay? I'm preaching again.
Yeah, you are preaching, teaching. You've always got something to say, Mom.
That's amazing. Well, there it is. Dear Carl, best of luck to a swell fellow. You're a swell girl, so hang on to her. And they're the ones that are about to celebrate their 70th wedding anniversary.
Some fun stories. He was 1 year ago. And he didn't graduate from West Carolina. He graduated from law school.
What was her name? Graduate in 43. I graduated in 19. Oh my goodness, I did not know that.
We got a
Go to school. You did? Well, there's some from Minnesota. Did you see these from Minnesota? This one is, and apparently that is from grade school situation in the Historical Society.
Yes. And where do you meet?
In boarding?
In West.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Lissa Kramer. I'm the museum manager for the Log House Museum down on Elkai. And I'd like to introduce Clay Eels, who's the director for the Historical Society here in Southwest Seattle. We are really excited that you guys all are willing to participate in our first pop-up museum. And maybe you could get an idea of what that means by walking around, because it's kind of hard to describe it when you're trying to tell people, really, you should come down and participate and bring your things and your memories. The goal of the pop-up museum today really was to just give us the chance to learn a little bit more about a wide variety of people's memories and things related to this idea of school. And we thought school is a good one to start with because it's fall, and so all of the schools around us, it's been in the media, first day of school, all the little kids are catching the bus. Down by the museum, they're doing the walking school bus that goes by every day by 3 o'clock. But we thought that there was a lot more that we needed to learn about the folks who live here. I'm not from West Seattle. I moved here about 1.5 years ago, so I'm learning a lot all the time. And so I know that we have a good mixed group of people who are from West Seattle, but also from as far away as Norway and England. And so we thought it was really important that we could give everybody a chance to share a little bit of what we do remember. And I'm so happy that some folks were able to bring in photos that you had of your own. I've seen some wonderful yearbooks from different places. So I just want to say thank you very much. And we were just going to take a little moment to give Clay and then Ellen, who I'm sure you all know, a little chance to talk about the partnership that's been going on with the Kenney and the Historical Society, and maybe to spotlight a story that we found in the process of putting this together about a very interesting teacher exchange that happened. What years were you back?
It was a teacher exchange between England and the US, and I was involved, and I came to teach for a year at Gatewood School, and the teacher went to England from, actually from Arbor Heights, because we had another teacher from Gatewood. But Jackie Carey lived with my friend for the year, and I lived with Jackie's mother for the year. And we didn't meet, we crossed the ocean twice, so it was a year later, 1957, when I met Jackie for the first time.
And
we
you
were
came
good
in
friends.
1955.
I came 1955 and returned in 1956 and came back to be married in 1957.
So that's a little preview. We're going to let Clay and Ellen have a quick word, and then we might have you maybe walk through a couple of the many wonderful items that you've been able to share with us. So Clay, do you want to come up and say a few words?
Thank you, Lissa. Could you please give Lissa a round of applause? She made this happen today, Lissa Kramer. And Amy, where are you? Way over there. Amy here at the Kenney. Here she is. You know her here at the Kenney. Anyway, I'm Clay Eels. I'm the executive director of the Southwest Seattle Historical Society, and the reason that it's called Southwest Seattle Historical Society is that our whole service area, every address has a Southwest address. So it's West Seattle, White Center. We call it the Duwamish Peninsula. And as Lissa said, we are headquartered at the museum. John Kelly knows this quite well. He's spent days, weeks, months at the museum, if you add it all up. But we try to get outside the walls of the museum because our mission is to serve the whole peninsula. And so we try to break that inertia to get into areas of this peninsula that can be good venues for events, like today. And the Kenney is a great example of that. I've talked with some of you about how 3 weeks from now we have our annual Champagne Gala Brunch. And we're celebrating the restoration of the Alki homestead at that. And one of the things that we get to do with that event, to bring supporters together to contribute funds for our next year, is that we get to recognize sponsors who have decided to invest in the heritage of the area. And I don't know if all of you know, but as of now you will know, that our presenting sponsor this year of our Champagne Gala Brunch is the Kenney. So you all give yourselves a hand. And the presenting sponsor has lots of benefits, like videotape on the website and really prominent mention all over. And this is also a reflection of the partnership that we have developed over the years. The Kenney, I mean, Ellen, I'm still her lines here. This is the only continuous care community in West Seattle, and it goes back to, how many of you know the year the Kenney was founded?
1907.
Well, you're close. 1909. They started building it out here, and the reason they started building it out here, some of you may know, is that in 1907 the streetcar came out here. And it came out from downtown through the junction, and then down California, and not down the diagonal of Fauntleroy Way that we all know now, because that didn't exist. He came around the backside of the Seaview building over there, and then you know how the land dips down and back here? We call it in back, but it used to be the front. 47. There used to be a trestle that the streetcar ran, and the streetcars evaporated from West Seattle about 1940. But the founders of the Kenney home knew that this area would grow because of the transportation provided by that streetcar. It was just a bunch of woods at that time. I'd like you to hear from Ellen a little bit about the Kenney and some of the things we've done this year and plan to do next year with the Kenney. So, Ellen Johansson.
All right, thank you. So, I will get an opportunity to project my voice here. As Clay mentioned, my mom, Irene, has brought some artifacts, and I think Mom is a very good collector of interesting things. And years ago, I went through some of the things that I had and came across my kindergarten report card. And I laughed when I read it because my kindergarten teacher said, sometimes we have to remind Ellen to use her indoor voice indoors. So I've always loved to talk. I've always loved being able to project my voice and have people hear me. So I hope you can all hear me. We're really excited about the partnership that we have with the Southwest Seattle Historical Society for a number of reasons. And one is that there are a lot of us that just love history, so that's a great reason just in and of itself to be associated with the Historical Society. But also, Clay told you a little bit about some of the early history and the Kenney's role in that. We really are a very unique community. There are lots of places where seniors can live, but we are the only continuous care community in West Seattle, and we're unique in that we're faith-based and we're nonprofit, and we have been in the same location doing the same kind of work for over 106 years, which I think is really amazing. So we've had thousands of residents like yourselves that have lived here over the years. And we actually were incorporated in 1901, so our history goes at least back that far. And our first board of directors had a lot of people on it that were kind of big name people in the founding of Seattle. People like family members from the Denny family, and family members from the Ballard family. Captain Ballard and the Ballard area is named after that family. The Whitworth family, you might be familiar with the university or the college that they started over near Spokane, Whitworth College, which is now a university. And then also the Osborne and Myers family. I'm not quite sure what their connections have been because to me those other three names are a little bit more well known. But we really have had a very great history. And the people that started the Kenney, Jesse and Samuel Kenney, they were a married couple, presumably a fairly young couple that came over, emigrated from Northern Ireland to San Francisco originally, started a business. It burned down in one of the San Francisco fires, and about the time of the Klondike Gold Rush, they came up to Seattle and restarted their business and their shop and their mercantile. So they were here in the 1860s, because we've seen ads down in our Heritage Hall down below with advertisements from the newspapers with them in it. And so they had this wonderful legacy of wanting to care for seniors and to make sure that people later in life, maybe if they didn't have family members or they weren't able to work and didn't have a lot of money, that they would have a place to live. So I think it's just a really special and great heritage that the Kenney has, and we're excited to be sponsoring the gala and also continuing our collaboration with the Historical Society. One of the wonderful things they do each year is sponsor a tour of homes around West Seattle. So next year the Kenney is going to be the featured home on that tour. So we're really excited about that, and we'd love to have your input as to when you think would be a good time to do that. We're kind of thinking maybe May, June, or maybe September. Be great to have good weather and be able to have people see our gardens and things like that. If you have some good stories or information about the Kenney that we can share, that would be wonderful. And so this year, we also want to honor the fact that the Historical Society is the nonprofit of the year. And we're hoping that down the road, the Kenney might be the nonprofit of the year. So we're just really excited, and I'll let the information go back to wherever it's going. I guess it's going over to my mom here first. So she mentioned a little bit about how she got over here. And I have to say that I'm really excited that she was an exchange teacher, because otherwise, without that desire on her part and the fact that she ended up at Gatewood Elementary School, I wouldn't be here.
She subbed at Lafayette also.
Yes.
I met her.
Subbed at Lafayette, subbed at a lot of schools in the district. Yeah. So she has some artifacts here. And Mom, do you just want to start talking about some of them? What do you want to do here?
Well, we gotta.
How would you like this? I think you have to leave it.
Just go.
Yeah, they can't
Okay.
see them, so you gotta keep it the angle it was.
Okay.
She can walk around.
Okay, great. There, okay.
Well, first let me say that I'm very happy to come out on a lovely day like this to the Kenney and to bring some of my memories along with me. As Ellen said, I came as an exchange teacher to this country in 1955 to 1956. And looking back on it, I think I was a very brave young lady because I didn't know anyone in this vast country. And that was the thing that hit me right away, the vastness of this country. When I had come from England, we lived close together and our homes were smaller and such. The fact that I could be on a train from Chicago for 2 nights before I got to where I was going was just tremendous. And that my husband and I later could get in the car and just drive. It was really nice. And then the time was another thing. When I was coming up from the station with the vice principal of the school at Gatewood at the time, I couldn't believe that this city that I was driving in was only just over 100 years old from when the Al-Qaeda party landed. I just couldn't take it in. I had come from something from the 1200s. The Pool, it was called. So it was that time factor too that hit me. But anyway, to get back to this, I brought some artifacts with me. This picture shows the group of exchange teachers that came all at once on the Queen Elizabeth ship. There's only 3 of us in the picture that that came to the Northwest. All of the others went to the different places around the country. But on the table, you will see 2 letters, one from the State Department congratulating us teachers who had got a place to come and saying they had a planned program for us, had a nice welcome in New York and a welcome in Washington, D.C. before we set off. So those are on the table. When I was at Gatewood School, it was a wonderful place to teach, and that's where I met my husband. He was teaching too. But the 5th grade teacher at the time was a fine poet. And so whenever there was a happy occasion or a tea or a retirement or whatever, she came forth with a poem. And this was the one. Would you like me to read it?
Yes, please. Thank you.
There is a young fellow named Dean, a finer bachelor you'll never have seen. But the rumor has spread that soon he'll be wed to a nice English girl named Irene. Now it's more than a rumor, it seems, and the eye in his, the beam in his eye brightly beams. For ere fall comes around, our Dean will be bound to the lovely young lass of his dreams. And be sure to read the one verse of the poem that's on the table. This same teacher wrote a letter to Santa this year, 1956, with something for each of the teachers, and you can tell by the verse who it is. And then she ends up with what she wrote about me, just a little verse. Okay. Now here at the bottom of the picture, these are the teachers that came that year with Mr. Virgil Smith, was a big name in the Seattle district schools at the time. He was in charge of the program. And here are a group of students in high school discussing how we are all, not the same, we're all unique, but interesting to talk about people from all over. And down here at the very bottom is the exchange teacher that changed with me, and you know her, or some of you do. She was Jacqueline Carey, and the last of her life she lived right here. She was John Kelly's wife. So that's written down there. And these were just an example of children's work. I was very interested in creative dramatics, and that's something I learned and experienced at Seattle Pacific College at the time, because my credentials from England didn't allow me to teach in Washington State when I came back. And so I did go to Seattle Pacific. And so these are chances I had to visit local groups and do some creative dramatics. And these are 2 letters that the children wrote to me. Down here at the bottom is a kindergarten class at Philmont Park that I had after I left Gatewood. So here's some nice memories of my teaching days, and particularly my exchange year.
Thank you so much.
I'm very happy to see what the rest of you have done. We are all unique. We've had interesting lives, and it's nice to see what people have done. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Irene. And with that, I would like to welcome you back to the table. There's more wine if you'd like another glass. I think we may have run out of the cold duck. Oh, there's a little bit of Martinelli's left, and of course, more items to look at. So thank you for joining us today.
Do you want to talk about the Post-its?
Oh, very good point, thank you. You may have noticed there's some little pads of yellow sticky paper, little Post-its. I would just want to encourage you, if you haven't already, just to jot down if there are things out here that remind you of things. The Post-its are going to go back with us to the museum later, all of the little written labels, because your objects you get to take home at the end today, and so we won't get to have all of those wonderful artifacts. But if we have the little notes about what things people are reminded of, it's a really great way for us at the museum to start to gather a wider variety of information. So even if it's just your name and the class you graduated and the school you went to, that's a great note for us, because we know that we've got a good body of people here if we have any projects coming up that we want to talk to you about. So,
and we also want you to be able to share your own stories with others. So, you know, maybe Patty has a memory of West Seattle High School and somebody else has a completely different memory. Or maybe somebody has, it's not just West Seattle that we have up here. All of you have come from different places and could have brought things from different schools. So maybe you'll see something there that makes you think of an experience that you had that was similar. There's a beautiful photograph of one of our residents, Bob Branham, learning to play the piano. And how many of us might have taken piano lessons when we were children and remember something about our piano teacher or something that we'd like to share? So,
who are the piano teachers?
Yeah, so things like that, if you write those on the note and lay them there or put them by the artifact, then you can go around and see what other people's memories are, and you can go over and talk to them and exchange stories, and that's how you get to be a part of the living history that pops up in a pop-up museum.
Thank you very much.